All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Armada, Wheeljack and Wind Sheer. Yeah, kind of a blast from the past here. Armada, in a lot of ways, was really my whole introduction to the Transformers franchise. It was a show that was on when I was a kid that I first kind of got into, and a lot of my Armada figures are my original ones that I had since I was a kid, and Wheeljack is no exception here. I did have some, like a few Beast Wars figures, but I think most of those I got after the fact. I'm not totally sure. I can't really remember the timeline of that. But yeah, no, here we have Wheeljack in his really nice little sports car mode. It's got a lot of really nice detail on here. It's got this sort of pearlescent kind of like lilac-y pinky silver for the windshield here, which looks really nice. He's got the nice logo there of the Autobot symbol being scratched out in favor of the new Decepticon symbol, and all of that is molded in place. Even the little Decepticon logo is actually raised up and just looks super nice. So much nicer than just like a painted detail would have looked without that like depth there. Because, you know, if you're unfamiliar with Wheeljack from the show, basically he used to be an Autobot and then felt disenfranchised with the Autobot cause, so then he joined the Decepticons. And yeah, no, it works pretty well. The figure rolls pretty nicely. What's kind of funny is if you actually look at his front wheels here, only the tires roll, not the hubcaps. So it never looks like his front wheels are rolling as you move them along, but they are. Wind Sheer looks pretty nice in his little stealth bomber jet mode, some kind of jet. And yeah, no, pretty good little color scheme there. Obviously matching Wheeljack. It does have a bit of undercarriage, but you know, even a lot of full size figures have undercarriage for the jet, so I think we can forgive a Minicon for it. But yeah, no, not much, a whole lot else to say about the vehicle mode. I mean, the reason that I'm deciding to review this now is because I was looking through a bunch of like old toys and stuff like that, and actually found his missiles, which had been missing for quite a long time. So it got me a little bit more re-excited with the figure because, you know, I got to actually complete it again and have that nice look there because his missiles really interestingly make the stripes of his vehicle mode, which I think is a really cool choice, and we'll show off how that works in a second here. But yeah, in terms of comparisons, first of all, we'll just start with Wind Sheer here. Here's Wind Sheer with a modern Micromaster from Siege. Here he is with Stormcloud, and you can see pretty much the same size there. Not a whole lot different. And then for Wheeljack himself, for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see how much smaller deluxes have gotten out throughout the years. Like Armada really shows this off more than most series, because Armada had actually like pretty big figures, but yeah, they've slowly just been decreasing in size to the point where you know, our modern deluxes look pretty small in comparison to Armada deluxes, but whatever. And here he is with Earthrise Wheeljack for no other reason other than the fact that they share a name, because really they're completely different characters. Really, he's a lot more inspired from Sideswipe for his look in robot mode, but that's what they look like together. But yeah, you know, not much else to the vehicle mode. It looks really nice. It's nice and big and chunky. It's got a couple Minicon ports back here that you can plug Wind Sheer onto if you want that look. I don't think that looks that great. Really, he looks better in the one in the middle, but for the one in the middle, that actually starts to activate the transformation, which we'll get into now. Yeah, he's kind of a Power Master in some ways too, because you actually need to plug in Wind Sheer to activate the transformation. I mean, you can do it without the Minicon. It's just you're, you know, kind of forcing the mechanism a little bit. But what you're supposed to do, as you can see, it's got a little Minicon port there that has like a little button in the middle, because, you know, each of the Armada toys had the like Minicon powered gimmicks, and this is his, which also just happens to be part of his transformation. So you take Wind Sheer and plug him in there, and you just squeeze them down, and then the wings flip up, the door wings, and then you can see the stripes on the side here are actually missiles, that there are little triggers on the inside of the doors there that you can fire, and it works pretty well. And you can see that's what it looks like without the stripes there. I really like that idea of, like, you know, obviously, yeah, they could just store there and that would still be fine, but It's really neat touch how they actually are the stripes in the vehicle mode. I think that's really cool. But it also means that if you don't have the missiles, the vehicle mode does not look as good. But yeah, you can keep it on the powered up mode like that. You can like close this back up and get Wind Sheer to stay there, like with the button only partially pressed in. And I think that looks like makes a much better combined mode between the two of them than having Wind Sheer plugged on back there. But yeah, for the rest of the transformation, you start off with that, and then once those doors open up, that unlocks the legs here, which you can rotate down on a floppy joint, but that's okay because it locks in. And then you unpeg them from each other and slide them out to the side. They're just on sliders at the knee. And then fold it down like this and click the knees in place. And then he's got little flip out heels here on the back, and then the toes flip out as well. And then the arms here are pegged into this orange armature, so you just rotate them down like that, and then they slide out on the wheel there, which is why the wheel is like, just the tire moving, because like that's how it plugs in, just like that. I mean, I guess there could have been a wheel there, but there's not really any space, like with the sliding mechanism collapsed, that that it could have had like that rotation joint for the wheel, so they decided to just make the tires rotate, which works well enough. It just looks a little strange in motion. But yeah, unpeg both the arms and slide those out to the side, and then the whole back section here with the windshield slides back like that, and you fold up the chest here, and then there's a mini-con port right there that will plug into this screw hole there. Very economical, since both of those things could be used for other stuff, although the mini-con port's not super accessible in either mode, so it really just happens to be the same size, but just plug it in, come on, like that. And then his back section here just folds onto his back, and there you have Wheeljack in his robot mode. And then real quick, we'll just do Wind Sheer here as well. For Wind Sheer, you just want to bring these little arms down, take his little guns here, which, I mean, I think they're supposed to imply to be guns, but they're also his toes in robot mode. And you just fold down the legs here and just like fold them down like that, fold down the toes, rotate the legs around at the knee, hip, I don't know, they're kind of both one and the same with him. And then this whole section here, this little white section is actually going to be the top of his head. And this whole section just double hinges down, so the mini-con attachment port goes into this cavity right there. And then you just kind of adjust his little wing shoulder pads there. And there you have Wind Sheer in his robot mode as well. And here's what they look like together. And yeah, they make for a pretty nice package. I really like, how some of the Armada figures had like really matching color schemes with their mini-cons. It makes them look like a cohesive little duo, even though in the canon of the show that makes a little bit less sense, since they get them when they just happen to find them rather than being paired together from the beginning, but they still look good together. In terms of the detailing, he has a lot of really nice detail. Obviously still has the Autobot logo there. Here's what his head looks like. So you can see really the more sideswipey inspiration. I love the gold face there. His coloration isn't like totally accurate to how he looked on the show, because he really didn't have any of this yellow detailing in the show. It was mostly like slashes of blue detailing to give him more of like a stealthy kind of ninja look, rather than like the bright yellow kind of breaking that up. But I think both look good. There is like a Takara version, I think, that has the more show accurate color scheme, but I think it looks good either way, even if it doesn't totally look like the show there. In terms of articulation, it's an oldish figure, so it's got some, but not a ton. The head is totally static, can't move. The shoulders can rotate all the way around like this, and then for out to the side shoulder movement, he just has that, which looks a little awkward. No bicep swivel or anything. He's got 90 degrees about of bend at the elbow there. Nothing at the waist. The hips can go forward about that far, back about that far, and can't go out to the side at all, which is kind of rough. He's got a swivel right above the knee that kind of acts as a thigh joint, so that works. The knees, he technically has knees if you unlock them here, but it's a really, really loose floppy joint, and I think it pretty much always was, so that's not like designed to be a knee joint. I'm sure if you use some like armature to hold him up, then you could at least get him into some poses. But as on his own, he really can't because he just crumples under his own weight there. Because the knees really are supposed to lock in place, and then the toes. I mean, they can kind of tilt up like that, but without proper working knees, that that really doesn't serve much of a purpose. So he's kind of a brick. Really, the most that you're getting with him is just like a slight like spray at the ankles here. Slight. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't splay at the at the ankles here, and then the arms can you can have him doing like a little jazzy pose or something. I don't know. So not a ton. In terms of weaponry, he still has his missiles here, which you can just like fire up from the top there. And what's really cool is he can hold them as little swords, batons. I'm not entirely sure what kind of weapon they're supposed to be, just little beat sticks. And I think that looks pretty good. Definitely would have been a little bit nicer if he had either a wrist or a bicep swivel, because he can kind of only hold them on like this one axis. Or the two axes if you're pulling it out to the side like that. So, it looks fine enough, but it's still pretty cool how those can, store in his backpack here, completely unobtrusive and out of the way. He's got some weapons, but doesn't, and then, I guess if you wanted to, you can also flip this up over his shoulders to have that kind of look going on, which, works well enough. In terms of wind shear, his articulation, his arms can go out to the side like this, and then I really actually can't swivel that far forward, but they can swivel back for transformation. And then his legs can rotate because they're just on ball joints here. And then he's got a hip joint up here that can swivel back and forth. And then his knee joint is right below it. So he's got that thing going on, that classic Transformers proportions things where their shin is much, much larger than the upper part of their leg. So it looks really silly and disproportionate. It's a mini-con, so who cares really? But I thought that was kind of funny. He's got a nice little head sculpt too. You can see his little his red face there. In terms of comparisons for Wind Sheer, here he is again with Stormcloud, just so you can see what he looks like with a Siege Micromaster. And then for Wheeljack, here he is with Earthrise Wheeljack. Obviously much taller than a standard size deluxe nowadays. And, they don't really look anything like each other. That's fine. They're different characters. They just, it's just a trademark save using his name. And then here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, who he's much more inspired to look like, although they couldn't make him Sideswipe in the show because there was another figure that was Sideswipe who also looks nothing like Sideswipe. So I don't know if they thought ahead about that fully, but either way, still, they look pretty cool together. You can definitely see the design inspiration for Sideswipe when you look at his head sculpt there in comparison to Wheeljack. Pretty cool. But not a whole lot else to this figure. I like his incorporation with the Mini-Con and how he's like my favorite thing about this figure is how the missiles become the stripes in vehicle mode. I just think that's a really cool detail, and he's got a lot of really nice detail on him. I love how all of his like insignias are raised. Like this one on his arm is also sculpted in too. Which is really cool. I mean, he's definitely a bit of a brick and he's got like hollow legs and stuff like that, but that's pretty typical of Armada figures being like not really posable. They were more prioritizing the kind of gimmicky nature of the toy line. And it's not strictly just an old toy thing either, because like a lot of Beast Wars figures are more posable than a lot of Armada figures just because, they had a ton of ball joints, whereas Armada figures, aside from the mini-cons, don't really have a tremendous number of ball joints. There are some, but not nearly as much as you'd see nowadays. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. A really cool old figure, and I think despite the fact that he doesn't like pose super well, he still does look really good, even if it's not totally accurate to the show. And then Wind Sheer looks really nice with him as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Generations Armada, Wheeljack and Wind Sheer.